And we're back. That's right. It's season 7 of the SuperpowHER Podcast. We've been gone for a while, but let me tell you something. We're about to put the super in this power because we are talking to some serious sisters who have stories that are life-changing and that will help you change your life because we believe in making your pain pay you back. Everything that you've gone through, it cost you something and you've earned the right to get some interest off of it. That's what this season is about. And I'm bringing in some sisters who are going to take us to the next level. Are you ready? Because I know life is not easy, but together we can do it. Together we can be powerful. Together we can exceed the challenge. Are you ready? Let's go. You know, I started the SuperpowHER Podcast because I knew that there were women who were in the gap of life. And I knew that just because a woman was successful, it didn't mean she was okay. And we needed permission to talk about the gray, right? There's the white, there's the black, there are things that are good, there are things that are hard, but what do you do in the middle? And I wanted to create a safe place for women to testify who have overcome and they've gone through that season so that they can help other women who are on the other side who just needed to be encouraged. Because when a person is successful or they're doing well, sometimes where they are seems unattainable. But that's because many women are not telling the whole story, or they're not telling the part of the story where the struggle is. And there's some people who needed to be encouraged to talk about what do you do in the meantime. And that's really what the SuperpowHER Podcast is about. It's about testifying. It's about uplifting. It's about sharing those stories to make it count, right? Making your pain count, getting some interest off of it, and uplifting other women. You know, I named the podcast SuperpowHER because it's all about walking in your purpose. It's all about knowing what your gift, what your anointing, what your talents are that you do particularly special. That's what a superpower is. And so the her part of it is just adding it specifically for women so that they can tap into it. People who may be confused about what that power is, I wanted them to hear from other women who had figured it out so that they can maybe help guide that process because we all want to be working in our purpose. We want to be connected to the thing that makes us feel meaning in life. And so that's what it's all about. The SuperpowHER Podcast is a podcast that is geared toward women, but I don't just interview women because I also have a part of my calling that's called the Man Whisperer, where I hear from men, where men give us advice, they give us their perspective, we get to see the hearts of men. And so I still tap into the experience that men have because women want to know from a man's perspective. And a podcast is a good place to just listen. Sometimes if you're in conversation, we interrupt what men have to say. But I understand that men have a perspective. And so there is a place for men on the SuperpowHER Podcast for the benefit of women. My superpower is teaching people how to make their pain pay them back. If it costs you something, you've earned it, right? Whether it's time, whether it's energy, whether it's pain, whether it's problems, whatever it is, you've worked for that. You've earned it. How do you take what you've gone through and flip it, right? Because energy doesn't have a beginning or an end. It only transforms, right? So I teach people how to transform their pain into power, how to transform that challenge into the next level. That's my superpower, creating a safe space to not only own and honor and acknowledge your truth, but to leverage the challenges that you've experienced into lessons, to leverage everything that you've gone through into a testimony, to be able to use it for your good and not just evil, to use it for good and not just bad, not to wallow in the thing that happened or the circumstances, understanding that your circumstances are not your destiny, only your choices are. Let me tell you something. This is not a podcast about crying tears of sorrow only. It's also about tears of joy, and it's also about laughter. In fact, I think one of the biggest lessons of whatever you've gone through is to realize that there is another side and to find the joy. I do want to walk in the joy on this podcast. Sometimes you got to make fun of yourself, right? Sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying. So we go through the gamut of emotions, but it's honest. And I think anybody who wants to glean, anybody who wants to keep it real, you'll find yourself here. You'll find your story. You'll find your sister. You'll find an experience that you can relate to on this show. If there was one takeaway that I would want people to get from this podcast, it's that you're seen and heard and you're not alone. And whatever you're going through, this too shall pass. What makes this season, after 6 seasons before, so different, we're not just talking to celebrities or celebrity-like people. We're talking to real people who have found solutions in their lives that can help so many people. And so I think we're going the gamut, because success is not just people who are in the spotlight. Success is people who have figured out how to fulfill their purpose and overcome despite the challenges. And so we're tapping into the spectrum of women this season. The call to action, specifically in this climate, is that we need to be intentional about asking for help, and we need to be okay with when we're not okay, and making sure we reach out, because there's another sister somewhere who has exactly what you need. And I'm hoping you find that right here on the SuperpowHER Podcast. Make sure you tell your friends and your friend's friend to tap in and subscribe to the SuperpowHER Podcast on Deya Direct TV on YouTube. That's Deya Direct TV.